C'est vrai qu'on est dans les menus du 2. Notre saut, exactement, t'as tout compris, Gralox. Et là, il n'y a pas les papiers par terre.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
J'en peux plus. J'en peux plus. Combien j'ai fait de fin du truc du Parable de base et combien j'ai fait de fin du Deluxe? Je comprends pas, je comprends pas. Est-ce qu'il y a une fin? Il n'y a pas de fin, il n'y a jamais de fin, je ne s'arrête pas et moi je joue, il se passe rien. Oh.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Roi sans syndicat. Mais c'est pas le même couloir, pourquoi ce couloir change? Pourquoi il change le couloir? Je comprends pas. Est-ce qu'il y a moyen de faire toutes les fins du jeu de base avec le saut?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This
Donc,
was not the correct way to the
mais je vais
meeting
pas toutes
room,
les refaire.
but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left.
Qu'est-ce que j'ai fait? Qu'est-ce que je n'ai pas fait?
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes.
Du coup là, le saut,
Now
c'est
ride the
le...
lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I
Comme
need
ça.
you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket
Collectible.
was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
Moi je veux juste la fin des carrés mauves, mais je peux pas la voir.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Oh, ça tombe de l'autre
Stanley
côté.
decided to go to the
Un autre
meeting
jeu?
room. Perhaps the confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the
Je vais
bucket
là.
calling to him, telling
Ensuite,
him that the employee lounge
je vais
was
là.
simply the
Je
place
vais
to
là.
be. And here it was.
Faut
Had
trouver
the
les 6
bucket turned out to be
collectibles.
correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The
on
cargo
pouvait
lift,
passer par
yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Another miniature Stanley figurine.
J'ai à
This,
moitié.
you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about
Je suis sûr qu'il y a moyen
mini
d'aller tout en bas sans
stands?
mourir.
Stanley figs. What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Mais j'ai déjà fait descendre les escaliers quand j'allais chez le patron. Ça m'emmène au garage. Un autre pouvoir, exactement. Ça c'est la fin où on se rend compte qu'en fait il est enregistré, puis il dit non, en fait c'est pas un enregistrement.
Okay, this is day number 295. Tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I
Est-ce que
pick it
l'édition
up.
de luxe c'est vraiment
No
le jeu avec
matter
le
how
seau?
many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense.
C'est notre enregistrement.
There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it.
Je vais streamer dessus. C'est Accordeur TV.
It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an
Très
hour
gentil, Granox.
with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there?
Évidemment, c'est genre la preuve. Hein. Notre tweet. Pourquoi toi tu marches pas toi?
All of his co-workers were gone.
C'était
What
particulier
did
cette
it
fin.
mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was
Je vais
home.
faire ce que t'as dit, U.
Stanley clutched the
Il n'y a
bucket
pas
tightly to
de
his
collectible
chest
d'ailleurs, ouais,
and
non.
entered the door on his left.
C'est notre univers. Pas de collectible. There will be a reward for finding them all. William... Oh, attends. La pilule rouge, la pilule bleue. Le truc en bas de l'escalier. Je sais pas. Ça c'est le bureau. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Et le sixième c'était celui que j'avais déjà. Donc il me manque celui-là, celui-là et celui-là. Ok, pilule, là et là. Ok. Ok. Ok, là on va en bas.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's
Et il est là.
office. Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Il m'en manque que 2. Est-ce que je peux monter? Ok, on va dans le bureau du boss. Puis après on va à l'arrêt de Pills. C'était là.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any
Ah non,
human
mais c'est
life.
peut-être là.
Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck.
Ah mais non,
Was
je
it
l'ai
the
eu celui-là.
bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most
C'était pas
logical
celui qui était
explanation.
ici? Il y en avait un, je l'avais eu. Ah, en fait celui-là je l'ai eu.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind
NOUS
Control
exactement
Facility.
Zio. Mais mon compte en banque. Malheureusement.
Rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place
No
hold?
viewer, exactement.
Stanley and the bucket both
C'est pour ça que
wondered
vous,
to
faut pas
themselves.
hésiter à faire de la pub à la chaîne. De mettre des j'aime sur toutes les VOD, des commentaires sur toutes les VOD, de vous abonner, de mettre des chaînes sur les best-of, des j'aime sur les best-of, puis après vous gagnez.
Everyone
Notre
in the
setup,
office was
exactement.
being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this,
Oh, ça va,
and
pas
it
besoin.
very nearly burst into tears as Stanley
Bien, faut bien faire
called
notre
it,
promo
reassuring it
comme il se
that
doit. Hein.
everything would be fine. Was the bucket
Notre
under the
cordialité.
mind control
Tout compris.
facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the
Là
first
c'est moi
place?
427, c'est là en
These
face.
questions raised furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He
Mais du
couldn't
coup je peux
accept it.
pas
His own life in someone
terminer
else's
le jeu
control.
avec le saut.
Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His
Dans les
one
pros là,
friend
qui
in the
connaissent le jeu
entire
là.
world. At
Je
this
sais qu'il y en a
point,
des gens qui
he could
connaissent le
trust
jeu.
no one
Est-ce que vous
except
pouvez me
for the
répondre
bucket.
à cette simple question? Y a-t-il une énigme ici?
But here was the
Avec
proof.
les boutons rouges.
The heart
Il y a
of the
moyen de faire quelque chose, on est d'accord.
Controls labeled with emotions,
Dites-le moi, dites-moi.
happy,
Bah
or
oui,
sad,
Cordoran, tu as
or
raison, il y a
content.
moyen de faire quelque chose.
Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very
J'ai appuyé
place.
sur le nom.
And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself?
Ah, je peux pas
How could
aller.
the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous
Oh.
screen. Birds. Silly birds.
Ah, c'est pas la fin du monde.
The control buttons became active again.
Si je la fais exploser, c'est-à-dire si je fais... Hein, c'est-à-dire qu'il y a une énigme, mais avant de faire tout exploser. Oh, j'ai compris.
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind
J'ai
controls
compris
were only a
l'énigme.
facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible...
Moi j'aime bien les flamants roses.
Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping
Pas de
through
souci, oui.
live streams of the
Merci.
silliest birds
Je pense que j'ai une idée.
imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken,
Le
this
perroquet
one
bleu.
was
Perroquet
surely
bleu.
the best. And Stanley was happy.
Ça c'est vrai, je suis heureux. Moi j'aime bien les oiseaux en vrai. Je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de personnes qui ont peur des pigeons. Oh, ça fin.
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. This
pas
is
comme
what I
d'habitude.
wanted all along. I got what I wanted.
Ouais, j'ai eu ce que je voulais.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Je vais check le truc mauve. Ok, donc. Le bureau, là, j'ai eu. Là, j'ai eu, là, j'ai eu. Il y a la red pills que j'ai pas eu. Et ça... Ah, il planque, toileau... Warehouse floor. Toilettes? Les toilettes? Mais y a pas de toilettes. Ah mais là il est mis. Celle que j'ai eue c'est que j'ai pas eu. Donc les portes. Les toilettes d'au-dessus. Mais oui. Bien joué.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. You're getting close now, Stanley. You've
Je sais où est la dernière.
all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all.
Si c'est des
You can't
NFT.
go back to when you had no
C'est des NFT,
Figler
elles
and
m'appartiennent.
Marines. None of us can.
J'espère que c'est des NFT, sinon ça veut dire tout le monde les a. Si, la deuxième phrase est vraie. Ok. Non, bien joué, bien joué. Pour moi, ça ressemblait pas à des toilettes. Eh, j'ai pas pris le seau. Oh, c'est ouvert.
Here's the door. Just go.
Oh mais attendez. Ça va être plus rapide.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
La
Stanley
pilule.
decided to go to the meeting room. Stanley picked up
La
the bucket
pilule.
and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him,
Okay.
telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind.
La pilule, c'était à droite. Hein.
Stanley took the door on his
Je monte,
left
je dois
to
sauter
go
sur la
back to
rambarde
the
et aller à
meeting
droite.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him.
Il y a plein
It should
d'endroits,
have
j'ai l'impression
alarmed
que je
him,
peux
of
aller,
course,
mais
because
pas
buckets
du tout.
can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Ok, c'est là en bas la pilule. Faites-le.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Mais moi je voulais le collectible.
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket.
Ok, d'accord.
Simple enough, right? This should tell us
Okay.
everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket.
Ok,
Okay, let's begin.
ok.
Item 1. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a hologram of a bucket.
Ah bah oui, je le
An
savais.
actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket?
Ah ouais?
Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Putain, je le sais. Ok. Ok, la prochaine, je me concentre et en vrai, normalement, je l'ai.
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
Non, non. Ah
Incorrect.
putain.
This is a bucket.
Mais en même temps, il ressemblait beaucoup au truc d'avant là.
Item 4. Is this a bucket?
Ça ressemble, hein.
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's
Ah,
an enormous machine
okay.
that tills the earth. I thought
Non,
this
je
was a
savais pas.
gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's
Non,
just
mais...
move on to the next one.
D'accord.
Is this a bucket?
Non.
Incorrect. This is a bucket. Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
Ok, d'accord. C'était forcément, oui. Sans... To
Item...
be a
Wait,
bucket
hold
or
on,
to
I
be,
can't
quoi.
find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Yes.
Ah, j'ai raison.
Thank you. There's nothing here.
Is
Of
this
course it
our
isn't a
bucket?
bucket. We both know
Notre
full well
seau.
nothing isn't a bucket. Wait, when I say nothing isn't a bucket, that makes it sound like I'm saying everything is a bucket, which of course is not true. Unless, is that what you think? Answer me straight, Stanley. Are you trying to tell me that you believe everything is a bucket?
Ouais.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out.
Mais si tout
I've
est un
lost
seau.
all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had.
Oui, t'es un
to begin
seau.
with.
T'es un seau.
I'm afraid the
Seau,
bucket
t'es un
is
seau.
threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
Non.
What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I had no idea.
J'avais raison.
How could... Except
Tout
me.
est un seau.
I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're
Ah,
not
on est tous les deux
buckets.
pas des seaux quand même.
Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change
On
the
a perdu le
fact
seau.
that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that.
Ok.
Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Allons-y. Ouais, c'est parti. Ouais, ok. Je comprends pas
Stanley
pourquoi ça
knew the
marche.
office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket, off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the
Mais,
way
mais
to
c'est
the
quoi
top.
ces histoires
There's something
d'autocollants
up
sur le
there I
seau?
need you to do.
Qu'est-ce que vous
Stanley did
racontez?
not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact.
Ça fait
He
pas
was
partie
firmly
des features
convinced
du
that the
2, on a
bucket
fait
had
dans le
spoken
musée
to
le
him,
tour des
and he
features.
unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop. Look there
Oh
on
non,
the
ça
wall.
refait...
You see, there's a sign right there. It says no buckets.
Attendez, je recommence. Je prends pas le son. Parce qu'il faut le 6ème
All of
collectible.
his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
T'as vu, il y a un seau et pas un seau.
When Stanley
C'était
came to
un
a set
saut.
of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not sure.
Après, ouais, tout est un saut, quoi.
I realize that investing in your trust
Mais
in
du coup, si
someone
tout est
else
un saut,
can
je
be
pourrais pas aller là.
difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that
Merci,
I want
Alex.
something bad to happen to you?
C'est très gentil.
I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do
Ok,
want
normalement,
to
il y a un
help you,
collectible
to show
ici.
you something beautiful.
Oh putain, on les a tous.
And there it is, the last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all.
Je les
but
ai
that
tous
would be
eus.
like a reward, and we can't have that.
Non, il y en a
So,
plus, je les ai tous
instead,
faits.
I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley.
C'est nos
You wanna
statuts,
know
exactement,
so
mais
badly
Gralox,
what's
t'as tout
out there?
compris.
You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see?
Oh non.
There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here.
Oh non, ça c'est la dernière fois que j'ai eu la dernière fois. Je propose, je reset le jeu.
Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out
Je vais reset le jeu et on fait la fin des trucs mauves. Ok, parfait. Oh oui, tout est reset. Le premier, c'était... C'est où que le jeu m'emmène?
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines, those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines.
Ok.
Just one more time.
Ah oui. Là, c'est la zone des souvenirs. C'est là où on est venu se remémorer de Stanley Parable quand on jouait à Stanley Parable.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
Oh. Non. Quoi?
And here was the second Stanlerine. You found this one all on your own just by poking around behind the boss's office. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then, I had no faith in
Mais
you
ça
to
n'a
find
jamais
any
de...
of them, let
C'est
alone
où la
6.
fin?
You continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways.
T'es un dur, t'es un génie.
Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini stand? Can you
La
remember?
troisième? La troisième, c'était là.
Hey, that's exactly right. It was here in the warehouse. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory.
Mais je me
but I
demande ce qui se
shouldn't
serait
be
passé
surprised.
si j'avais
After
pas
all,
été à celui-ci.
science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything.
Ça fait un bruit bizarre.
Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
Non, j'ai jamais été ici. Oh, les chiottes! Je me souviens des chiottes.
This was the 5th mini stand, and this one was really something special. It was in the boss's bathroom. I remember it so clearly.
Ça, je
In
me souviens
fact,
ça.
because this one is
Imaginez, on a
particularly
100. Je
special
faisais
to me,
pendant encore
I
3
made a
heures là.
little video to commemorate
Quel
the
enfer.
occasion. Enjoy.
Oh, la vidéo YouTube en 360p. J'en peux plus de ce jeu. C'est très drôle ce qui se passe là, mais j'en peux plus. Oh, le coup de la vidéo comme ça, c'est...
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
Oh bordel. Oh.
Mais c'est de la merde!
Ouais, c'est de la merde.
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This
Mais
memory
attends,
is the
ici
most
j'avais pas fait dans cet
distinctly clear in my
ordre-là.
mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this
Ici,
is the
je
moment
m'étais
where
trompé
you
à la
picked up a
troisième.
Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments.
Je voulais
picking up
juste
figurines,
reset, moi.
which it was exactly like.
Je voulais juste reset.
And then there was no more. Because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone. No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
Je suis esclave de Steve.
Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going, I want more. And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched? Yes, I love that
Laissez-moi
video.
sortir. Je veux juste faire les petits carrés mauves. Les
Still don't
petits
remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room. These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward
Si
for
on est mort
finding
des
all of these,
coraux.
it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
Ah, c'était fermé. J'en peux plus. Ouais, 3 x 6, 18.
Second figure, don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it, the very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
Oh, je vais pouvoir faire les sauts. Je vais pouvoir sauter.
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on.
Pas sauter.
I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office.
Ça y est.
Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. I can remember.
I could remember. Now.
Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions.
C'est l'épilogue qu'il y avait dans le musée.
I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy, and I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions, he would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much.
C'est la fin.
Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley. This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
On lui laisse sa run parce que là, il a dit ça la dernière, après je vais à la retraite, donc on lui laisse le plaisir de raconter notre vie. Ouais. Vous vous souvenez, c'était le début du live.
Telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Ouais, c'est vrai, il était heureux. C'est moi.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget.
On les fera après, os dur. S'il faut, je redémarrerai le jeu, mais on les fera.
He realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation.
Il me troll à chaque redémarrage, ce truc.
Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ok, on l'écoute.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Tiens, après, il a dit il prend sa retraite, donc bon.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
C'est bizarre comment entrer pour aller voir le boss.
Here's the door, just go.
Là, il y a un truc. Je suis sûr un jour il y aura un truc derrière. Je veux juste faire les trucs mauves.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
C'est beaucoup dur.
The lights rose on an enormous room
Un
packed
jour
with
sans fin, un jour
television
sans fin.
screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Ça je comprends pas non plus. Hein. Il y a vraiment des tas de trucs que j'ai pas compris où aller voir quoi dans le jeu. C'est impossible d'avoir toutes les fins. Il n'y a pas de fin. C'est jamais la fin du jeu. C'est ça qui est horrible.
Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
Le 4 c'était mauve.
Would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Mauve c'était 4. Voilà. Ça marche pas. J'aimerais tellement savoir la réponse de cette énigme-là. Je suis trop curieux, j'ai envie de savoir.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
Je vais essayer de retenir les numéros.
Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's
truc d'urgence.
emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Ah, now this is making things a little more
Ah
fun,
non,
isn't
un
it,
c'est
Stanley?
rouge.
It's your time to shine.
4 c'est jaune.
You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires.
2.
Oh, this is much better than what I had in
4.
mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But
5
what
c'est vert.
precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are?
Dark
A
blue
moment of
1.
solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned
2.
off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was
Red
merely
3.
in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I
Red
simply
3.
let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office
Pink,
sink into
purple.
the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it
4.
burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though. This version of events has been
1,
rather amusing.
2.
Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only
Il
34
n'y a que
seconds
ici des
left.
roses.
But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to
Light
put
blue
some extra
22.
time on the clock. Why
1,
not?
2,
These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees.
1. Ah non.
Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? But you really believe there's an answer? How many times will you replay this bit, looking desperately for a solution? 10? 100? 1,000? I look forward to finding out and to watching the bomb go off each time you fail. Just you and me and the retching explosion
Orange,
of fire and
71.
metal over and over and over for all of eternity.
71,
And Stanley
orange.
died again. And Stanley died again. And Stanley
comprends vraiment pas, hein.
died again.
Blue 1.
Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle.
Et là, je sais
30
pas.
seconds until a big boom and then nothing.
Bon, allez, on crève.
No ending here. Just you
Je
being
comprends
blown
vraiment pas
to
cette
pieces.
énigme.
Will you cling desperately to your frail life? Or will you let it go peacefully?
Mais en fait, si ça se trouve, le truc qui est horrible, c'est si ça se trouve, il n'y a rien à comprendre. Et il n'y a
It's
pas
all the
d'énigme.
same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I
Parce qu'il y a
will
pas
be
de
laughing at every
numéro
second
de-
of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever after.
C'est bon? J'ai fait cette dernière run?
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all.
Bon. Oh! Oh putain. Un truc épilogue. Je veux faire les carrés mauves. C'est quoi, bordel? Bien des années plus tard. L'épilogue, c'est ce qui se passe après. C'est une suite de l'histoire. C'est ce qu'on met à la fin d'un livre pour, ou d'une histoire pour raconter ce qui s'est passé après, quoi. écouter ça un épilogue. Souvent dans les livres, des fois dans des films. C'est un chapitre en plus pour te raconter ce qui se passe après, quoi. C'est drôle, le soleil se lève partout. J'aime beaucoup la musique. Non, c'est un prologue, ce qui se passe avant. Et puis c'est après et prose avant. Elle est très cool la musique, bordel. Elle est vraiment trop belle la musique. Je dis peut-être de la merde. Oh. Oh, les souvenirs. C'est comme quand on avait eu ce bouton qui faisait avancer le temps de manière exponentielle. C'est beau, hein? Critique The Stanley Parable. Comme beaucoup d'autres, j'ai bien aimé le premier Stanley Parable. Ce qui souligne à quel point je suis déçu de cette suite. Là où le jeu d'origine brillait par son originalité, Stanley Parable 2 est ennuyeux, sans inspiration et bien souvent insultant à l'égard de ses fans. Plutôt que de surfer sur ce qui avait fait le succès du premier jeu, la suite nous emmène vers des territoires qui n'intéressent personne, un trou sans fin. Qui ça intéresse? Où sont les nouvelles fins? Et ces séquences amusantes de Stanley Parable 1, comme la ligne d'aventure. Au lieu de ça, on nous sert une quête annexe peu inspirée, à base de collecte de figurines. Même cette diversion laisse un goût d'inachevé. Trouver toutes les figurines. Trouver toutes nos figurines. Développeur de Stanley Parable, plus de spin-off, plus de suite. Quand The Stanley Parable a connu son succès mondial en 2013, ses créateurs ont envisagé de faire fructifier ce triomphe en créant une véritable franchise. Mais la réception critique désastreuse de l'échec commercial de Stanley Parable 2 ont forcé les développeurs à revoir à la baisse leur ambition, ainsi qu'ils l'expliquent dans un communiqué de presse publié aujourd'hui. Il apparaît clairement que les fans ne veulent pas plus de Stanley Parable. Peut-on lire de cette communication? Nous pensions que notre vision pour l'avenir de la série réjouirait les joueurs. Malheureusement, nous n'aurions pas pu être plus éloignés de la réalité. Le communiqué de presse poursuit en promettant de préserver l'intégrité artistique du jeu original et d'arrêter d'agresser les fans par une vision créatrice inconsidérée et insultante. Le mot « désolé » apparaît plus de 25 fois dans le communiqué. Critique cumulée sur jeux vidéo, ok. Non, parce qu'il n'y a jamais eu de Stanley Parable. En fait, là, ce qui se passe depuis tout à l'heure, c'est que le jeu, en tout cas le DLC, j'ai l'impression que la leçon du DLC, c'est en mode, bon, Stanley Parable 1, enfin Stanley Parable de base, il était exceptionnel. On a fait un DLC, et le DLC, il vous explique que pour rajouter des trucs, on vous explique que ça servait à rien de rajouter des trucs. C'est un peu une leçon comme ça. Genre en mode, le 1 se suffisait à lui-même. Et même cette édition de luxe, sert à rien. Oh, ça sert à rien. plein de collectibles. Bingo. Mais ils vont m'appeler Jim, je pense, les boutons. Mais c'est vrai que j'ai pas essayé. Ok, je dois aller dans le trou sans fin. Oh. Pas de soucis, Gralox. Oh, bonjour. C'était ça le truc que je vous disais, le jeu il nous parle. Mais c'est horrible d'apprendre qu'un nouveau jeu Stanley Parable ne verra jamais le jour. Avez-vous vu que les développeurs ont dit préserver l'intégrité de la franchise? Quel ramassis d'idiotie. Stanley Parable n'est pas sacré, il n'y a nul besoin de le protéger. Au diable l'héritage, continuons de créer des jeux Stanley Parable jusqu'à ce que le soleil explose. Mettons cette franchise à terre, traînons-la dans la boue. Et si le public déteste, qui ça intéresse? Vous voyez, c'était ça le problème du narrateur. Il faisait une fixation sur ce que les gens pensaient de son travail. Ne faites pas la même erreur. Ne vous attachez pas à l'héritage. Laissez-le se désagréger. Ce n'est pas difficile d'ailleurs. Je vais vous montrer. Ensemble, nous allons créer Stanley Parable 3. C'est simple. Il nous suffit de changer le numéro sur l'écran de titre du jeu. Il nous faut aussi un sous-titre débile pour le jeu. Un truc bien cucu qui se remarque. Essayez de combiner des mots au hasard pour trouver un nouveau titre pour notre jeu. Allez. Stanley Parable 3. Débranchons-le. La course vers le. Meurtre dans l'eau extensible. Attaque sur le trimestre du. Débranchons-le. 4 gares, cercle, défi, combat squelette. Didgeridoo. Didgeridoo. Débranchons-le. Débranchons le Didgeridoo. Stanley Parable 3. Débranchons le Didgeridoo. C'est absurde, j'adore. Dès que vous relancez le jeu, nous passerons au chiffre suivant et choisirons un nouveau titre. Ainsi Stanley Parable ne connaîtra jamais de fin. Rien ne changera dans le jeu que vous ferez ça. Ajouter du contenu, ça demande du travail. Inutile d'aller jusque-là. Ce sera juste le même contenu, recyclé à l'infini, avec un nouvel écran titre. Qu'est-ce que vous en dites? On valide ce plan? Moi ça me plaît. Vous avez aussi votre mot à dire. Ouais, ok. Mais dans ce cas, c'est décidé. Une nouvelle suite dès que vous commencez le jeu. Vous savez quoi? Puisque vous avez cru en mon idée, j'ai envie de vous offrir un petit quelque chose. Il me semble que le narrateur n'a pas réussi à vous remettre le succès cassé, n'est-ce pas? Bien sûr que non. Je ne m'attendais pas à des miracles de sa part. Ça va peut-être vous proposer qu'on règle ça? Et voilà, la machine a succès à réparer. Vous voyez? Je suis de votre côté. Nous sommes ensemble, vous et moi. Et ensemble, nous ferons avancer ce train. Stanley Parable ne doit jamais s'arrêter. Il devra tourner lui-même pour l'éternité. Je dois continuer à faire tourner la roue. Moi, je suis prêt. Vous aussi? Formidable. Nous n'avons plus qu'une chose à faire. Merci, profitez bien de Stanley Parable. Mais du coup... Je peux relancer les pilotes comme je veux? Épilogue. Non. Vraiment encore? Mais là on est au 3. Bien des années plus tard. Je pense que c'est le même épilogue. Je pense que c'est le même. Attends, par contre si je retourne au menu, que je retourne au bureau, je lance Stanley Parable.